All right, so today I'm going to teach you how to create this type of drop-down menu here. And it's actually harder than it looks. On hover for it to open, and you'll be able to actually go around like this. And actually the hover just makes it a little bit trickier than it should. So let's jump just right into this here. First, let me just walk you through how the setup is. So basically, there's just a header container that contains the logo and the navigation. And each one of those nav items are currently just text. So ideally, if we want to use the hover, we should create a component, one component, and these should all be instances of that component. Then you can do the hover state on the component level. So I'm going to use a plugin that's really great, but you could just like create one component, delete the rest, and duplicate everything. But I want to show you how awesome this plugin is. This is a very simple use case for this, but you have many others, which is called Master, and it's by Gleb. It's a paid plugin, but it's definitely very worth it. If you create a lot of components, especially for design systems, it's really, really worth it. So I used it before, but if I just write master, it will give me these options. But here I just want to create a component from all the objects that I have selected. So I did that. Here it got a little bit messed up, just a tiny bit, but I'm going to fix that in a second because I'm going to make this into an auto layout. And that just kind of like fixed it. And the auto layout is going to be our background. So I'm going to add a 12 pixel left and right, and then 8 pixel top and bottom. Align this to the center, and then do 100%, or just 100 here for hover, and I think 10. Does 10 work? Let's do a 16, so it's a little bit stronger. So the other thing we need to do here is create the other state of it, which is the default state. Which now it's basically just removing the background. So if we just want to name our stuff properly here, just name this state, and then default, and then hover. Wait, this hover. And then in the mock that I showed, I created this very quick and dirty icon. We can put that in here as well. And then we can actually do something kind of nice that on hover, this moves a little bit down by doing that. And then it would be nice that it's just going to move a little bit. So I hit here like Shift E to change to prototype mode. If I hit Shift E, it switches between design and prototype. And then I'm going to connect this and just do while hovering, so I don't need to do anything else. So when I leave this, when my mouse leaves this, it's going to go back to this state. So, one more thing I should use component properties here, and I should select these two and then add a layer property saying, say submenu true or false, and then the default value is false because most of them are going to be without a submenu. And then I just come here on the recipes, and what the true and false property does here is that it's going to create where did it go? Current variant. Maybe it's on the component level. Oh, here, submenu boolean. Basically, the property name is submenu, and then the value is true or false. What that's going to do is create a toggle on the instance level of submenu, and then basically this is now as false because it set the default to false, and then when I toggle it, it's going to be the true version. So if we just preview this, and I'm going to close the other one, you can start seeing that the hover now, it's working kind of like we expect. And then now let's start creating this the drop down part of it. I'm gonna move this down here. Okay, so let's create a menu item. I already have here kind of like set up, because this is pretty straightforward. It's just one auto layout that has an icon on the left and an icon on the right, and then the label that's filling the space. And the icons, both of them are fixed. Actually, they should be fixed. And they're like, oh, sorry, I selected the wrong thing here. This icon should be, yeah, fixed and fixed, yep. Okay, so now I'm gonna create a component by hitting Command Option K. Create a component over here. And I'm also gonna create another to do the hover state. So the hover state of this should be, let's just do like black. Oh, sorry, my bad. I'm gonna add another layer here, just a black 10%. That should be enough for the hover for now. Actually, maybe I'll change here I'll change the right padding to be a little bit closer to the edge. Let's see, 8. Yeah, that looks a bit better. All right, so we have let's just connect again, Shift E. Connect while hovering here. Okay, Shift E again to go back. And now I'm just gonna copy this and paste. This is a simple fixed 200 pixels auto layout already pre-made here with 8 everything. So 8 padding all around and 8 distance between each item. I forgot to rename this. Let's do it again, state default, and then hover. And then let's duplicate this with Command D. Let's do it 3 times. And let's say, I'm gonna do the same thing for this component. Add a layer property here and say submenu true or false. And the default would be false. And then we just need to add on one of them. Okay, so we're getting somewhere. All right, so now if we do, there's a few problems here. So like, let's say you could kind of go to oh, one click, you just open an overlay and you put it over there. Technically, it's fine. But so it's have the hover, and on click you have this, right? That actually works really nicely. But let's say if you want to add another, actually this was supposed to be on hover. Yeah, so on click is actually fine, but if you want it on hover, let's reset this. Once your mouse leaves that area, it's gonna close the overlay. So what we need to do here is actually create a duplicate of this frame. So this is going to be basically our hover state. So when we hover that, we're going to show this. So let's say, actually, we'll need to do one more thing, but let's walk through that together. Okay, so this is, we need to change this again. Press Shift E to the hover state, and then I just want to give a little space here because it's just nicer that way. Okay, so now if we can add a hover state here, I hit Shift E, and then on hover, instead of change to, I'm gonna do navigate to the hero hover. All right, so I think we're gonna hit the same problem here. Something a little crazy happened here. I'm just gonna reset the prototype. So basically, it's the same thing that happens here. Like while you're hovering only in that section, it's gonna change to this. But then if you leave that area, it's gonna go back to this. So maybe you should do mouse enter. So once mouse enter, it gets here, and we can do once the mouse leaves this area, it goes back to there. Once the mouse leaves the drop down. Okay, so actually there's another problem here, and again, let's use the master plugin because we already have the design. There's the need to create the hover state of this middle one here that has a submenu, because once you're hovering, it needs to open this other thing and kind of like wait for you to go there or go to one of these. So if you have the hover that came from here, from the main component of the menu item, what happens is that when you hover this and it opens the little menu and you move over here, this is going to disappear because it's going to reset back to the previous state. So what we have to do here, create another component. I'm going to make a auto layout here so I can change the positioning of this. And by the way, auto layout is amazing for reorganizing things like this. So now I could, if I wanted to, I could just remove the auto layout. So what we have to do here is, on this prototype, I'll just remove this hover state from here. Well, I guess like instead of changing to the hover, I don't have to remove it, but if I just do this, it will add another interaction on top, and basically the interaction of the instance overrides the parent, like the variant interaction. Let me explain that a little bit better. Let me first create this. So this is an instance of this, right? It already has a hover built in. So I added another interaction. So that interaction is overriding this one. The one that's on top here is overriding the one that's on bottom. So that's why sometimes you cannot do like a hover and a click, or you have to do these hacky things because you cannot have two types of conflicting interactions. Let's just name this to be nice. So here, let's say the state is, the first one is the default. Oops. And the second one, let's say the submenu open. So when we're hovering this, let's say actually this is not one click, it's mouse enter. And what we want to do is create another, this one could be, I detached the instance now, and this is gonna be the submenu. It can be a component, or like this more up to you, like depending on how many variations you will need. I'm just gonna actually remove the icon from here. I realized that the menu item could have the same property. Let's actually do that. The layer panel, create a property, let's say left icon. And the default's true because most of them have it, but then on this case, we just want to turn that off. Just for the submenu, just to be a little different. The reason why I put this out, because on this one we can use the overlay interaction. But there are other ways of doing it, but I think this is how I'm doing it right now, and I think it works. So, okay, so we have the instance here. Let's see how this is working now. Okay, it's like, now it doesn't change because it's like on the submenu open state once it enters there, because we added a mouse enter here. So it's mouse enter change to it, but now we have to do mouse leave change back to this. It's essentially doing the same as the while hovering, but it allows us to work a little bit more with it. So it's kind of working the same still, but now it's going to start getting a little interesting when we add another interaction here to open this as an overlay. And then we do the manual and move it somewhere here. I think this is about the middle here, but actually let's move it away from it just to make it a little more complicated, because when our mouse drags over here, this would trigger the thing to go back. So we're gonna have to do a little hacky thing there. If it was closed over here, you didn't have to worry about it, because once you pass over, it's just gonna be it's just gonna work. It's not gonna be very challenging. All right, so let's see how this is working actually right now. I think it's on, leave it on click. Yeah. So let's see mouse enter it again. All right, so now it's opening here, but it's not closing when we go back. So let's add a mouse leave here to close the overlay. So when the mouse leaves, so now that's where it gets tricky, because so if I get in the middle here and that little gap, it disappears. So what we have to do here is that we have to add a delay for this. Let's just add a delay of like maybe 40. And let's say that's not enough, only if we're doing it very quickly. Yeah. I also forgot to remove the hover state from here. This one doesn't have to be hover. And actually this one we can, yeah, it's already there, so we can have the hover as expected. So if we're moving quickly, actually through that gap, it works. But so this is something that you just kind of have to adjust, like depending on what you want to do. If you want to have to stay a little bit longer and not have to do this like super quick, this little, so like, yeah. So if you go slow, it disappears, but if you go fast, it stays there. And then this is basically working as expected. Now the only thing is that this is not going away. And then what we need to do is this one actually add something on the parent to go back to this. Actually, nope, that was my bad. We should do this one to close. Wait, hang on a second. Oh, my bad. We should do, because this is like a component set, we cannot do the same thing we do for the overlay, that we can just do close. That's why we had to create this extra page. So we're gonna do it here. Once mouse leave, you go back to this page. I think that's gonna be another thing that's challenging. Yep, so now it's triggering as the mouse left over here, and so we have to do kind of the same thing, add a delay here. And then now it's working as we would expect. And there's something over here that's not fully triggering. Oh, this should be mouse leave. Okay, let's see. Something is getting a little weird. So let's see what. Let's go down here. This one has mouse enter. This one should have mouse leave also. Where did I? Oh, I added it on the parent. Okay, so this one should have that menu item should have mouse leave. Okay, so now it should work as expected. Yep, and then it just like has a little delay over here to disappear because we kept it at 300. And then another thing you could do is that you select all these to go, actually you can't do it like that. on mouse enter, you change to this screen. And then what you can do is just copy this, select both, and then paste. And then the thing is, like, if you go to another one, it closes that quicker than if you just wait outside. Yeah, it's a little bit tricky, so you just have to play with the timing a little bit still, but it works. And yeah, that's it. Let me know if this was helpful, and if you have any questions, leave it down in the comments below. Leave a like and subscribe if you would like to. But yeah, thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one.